Good evening, Jacksonville. I am back here living in Jacksonville, Greg DiTulio, and got a show prepared for tonight. Something that is kind of one of those things that you don't know,
Okay.
one of those things you're not sure you really want to talk about. One of those things you need to talk about, but not everybody loves to talk about. And that's new home inspections. And the best way I can describe this is it's an insurance. We have a lot of new construction going on here in Northeast Florida. And it's actually a good portion of my business. And a lot of you that are watching on YouTube certainly reach out looking to relocate in the area. And a lot of people are from areas in the Northeast that are coming from older homes that have never actually purchased or built a new construction home. And so they don't know what a pre-slab inspection is. They don't know what a pre-drywall inspection is or what a final inspection, all the in and outs. So tonight I actually took a ton of notes, and I'm super fortunate to have an inspector here in town that I use a great deal. And first and foremost, BJ, welcome to the show tonight. BJ Johnson from Inside and Outside Inspector
Yes, sir.
here in Northeast Florida. And he took it is boiling hot here in Florida. If you're watching tonight on the show, make sure you comment where you're watching from. And also, this is an interactive show, as always. So if you have any questions about inspection, home inspections, new home inspections, anything here in Northeast Florida, if you're building a home, whatever, let us know where you're watching from. And realize it is boiling hot out here. These guys, they had two of my inspections today. It is blistering hot out, and you got to give these guys a hand because it is hard work in the summertime. Attics, drywall, dirt, heat, you name it. It's dirty business. But it's one of those things you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. It's like insurance. Nobody wants to talk about it. I've done 2 videos with these guys. If you haven't watched the channel, we were able to do it with PJ, who works for with BJ, and you know, we've done we did a pre-drywall actually a couple years ago. So weird watching that video because it's old school. But I mean, we literally had one of my clients there as inside and outside. We're doing his pre-drywall inspection. We did a before and after. So if you haven't watched that video, watch it. We also just did a pre-slab inspection. And, you know, tonight we're going to talk about all these inspections, the nitty gritty. And I'll tell you what, it's just insurance. It's not a sexy conversation. No one wants to pay for insurance, and you don't need insurance until
that one time.
Right. Exactly. So another thing I want to say really quickly also is that I've moved here 6 years from South Florida, and I have no affiliation with these guys. I am a broker, a real estate professional in town that I went through a gamut of different inspectors. And basically, when you do as much business as I do, and a lot of the people I work with, you start configuring a team of people that you know are they know what they're doing, they have the right equipment, and they're committed to their job. They show up, and they're you know, they really, these guys have taught me so much in the last 2-3 years. So I have no affiliation with them. There's no kickbacks. I don't get anything for referring them. All my outside out of town people go, who do you refer? I look good. Look, guys, this is who I prefer to, because I went through a year of going through so many inspectors. Never met this guy before. Never spent out much time with you, actually, BJ, except on the job sites. Yeah, so massive respect to him and his team because they are dependable. That's the word I was looking for. They're dependable, and nothing comes out of it for me. They're taking their heart out time, and they're not the cheapest, but the cheapest is not good. They're not the most expensive, but they get a dang good job done, and they have great equipment. And I can't tell you enough how important it is to have this peace of mind. And in myself, I've had to convince myself over and over time, because I don't like paying for insurance if I don't know if I'm going to use it or not. But as I learn more and more about this new construction here in Northeast Florida, especially since COVID, the way they're putting up houses, okay, these wood frame houses and everything, I'm not trying to freak you out, but there's so many vendors and so many people going through your construction site that these days I'm like, when people go, well, should I do it? And I go, I would. Personally, I would.
Yeah.
If it was me, I always say to my clients, BJ, if it was me, I would do it. But you have to make that decision yourself. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's another set of eyes. I mean, nobody's perfect, right? The builders, they got so many houses up under them. Sometimes they got 10, sometimes they got 40, but they're kind of like this and narrow-minded on house to house to house. And we're just another broad set of eyes, that another final QC that we find normal stuff, little stuff, but sometimes we find big stuff. Yeah.
Right.
And most of the builders are appreciative.
Yeah, most of them are people. I have someone that goes to design center with my clients. I rely heavily on these guys. The only favor I've gotten out of them is maybe once or twice I've asked them to squeeze me in on a short notice, and that's pretty much it. Only once or twice, BJ, if I recall,
yes,
where you guys had to squeeze me in. But other than that, I truly depend on their equipment, their expertise, and I've learned so much just showing up to inspections. Unfortunately, these days, I'm fortunate. I have so much business. I can't get to every single inspection. I have 2 in one day today. But I love going to them because I always learn something from these guys. And we're going to talk about a lot of things tonight. I prepared a lot of questions tonight, and I want you guys to also chime in if you have any questions. Put in the comments. We will acknowledge your questions tonight. But I have a lot of questions that I put out here for BJ to have conversation. I said to him, he literally got on a minute ago. I mean, you saw him got on. We had no preparation. So I was like, you know how I am, man. I just want to say it how it is. This is raw, unfiltered, the real deal. At the end of the day, when you're building a new home, it's exactly what BJ just said. It's a team effort. That's why I'm fortunate enough that I can afford to pay someone to go to design center with my clients, because I want someone with a design background to be there and be the representation on our behalf, not just the builder's designer, but on our behalf, because the more people that are there, the more opinion you're going to get to help make all those little decisions. That's the same goes for the inspection and for the build. Okay, you have a construction manager that is responsible for your build, but he also has all these vendors that come in at each stage of the build, and maybe BJ can elaborate on that based on these inspections that they offer. Okay, at different stages of the build, and so these guys have all these construction managers, and just like these construction managers have all these vendors, okay, and basically they're building, potentially, some of the guys I'm working with right now are building 20 to 25 homes at one time, all at different stages, okay? So he's absolutely right when he's saying it's another set of eyes. In my eyes, and my value as a real estate professional has gone up quite a bit, not to say arrogantly, because every time I go to inspection with these guys, I'm learning. And now I'm looking, when I'm walking through your construction site, when I represent you, I'm looking for the things they're looking for, just as another set of eyes, because the earlier we catch it, the quicker we can get it remediated, and we can keep the process going. And that's the key of the process.
Absolutely.
And the great thing about these guys is that they document everything so that you have historical data on the build of your home. So that is imperative as well. I would say keep it. But also I want to talk about tonight what you should be doing if you're building a home as a homeowner, because I said a team effort. I'm talking about your construction manager. I'm talking about your real estate professional that is supposed to be advising you and representing you. I'm talking about your inspector, okay? And some people can't always show up, but like today was a good example. One of the clients showed up today. I always say to people, if you can show up at the end of an inspection, don't go there and bug the inspector for the first hour or two. Let them do their job, okay? Because they have a team of people. They're trying to focus in on everything, but let them do their job. But at the end of the inspection, get a verbal. A verbal means, hey, inspector, BJ, what's up with the house? Anything I should be alarmed of? And that way, not only are you getting a report that has pictures and really in-depth information about it, but now you're actually getting to see it from Mr. Inspector pointing it out as he walks around the house. And that's invaluable. It's really important. And so people don't realize that. So there's two things. why should you get an inspection? It's insurance. It's if you want a proper build and you want to make sure that you're not going to have major issues down the line. It's just ensuring peace of mind to build a good home for the long term. Okay. This is why you shouldn't get an inspection. People that get an inspection and they do not read their inspection report and they expect me as their realtor or their inspector to spell every line item on 15 to 37 or 50 or 60, 70 pages. If you're not willing to go through that report, don't get the inspection.
Yeah.
You're wasting your time and if you don't understand the inspection report, even though it's these inspection reports are pretty spelled out pretty easily. These are links for everything manufacturer. I mean, and I'll let BJ get into it. But if you understand something, call them. You're paying the money. They'll answer your call. Yeah, they're busy, but they'll answer your call, right, BJ?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're always there after the inspection because sometimes even when we get the verbal, they don't really get it, and then they get maybe a little more confused when they do see the report. And they just want a little deeper explanation. And we're just a phone call, text, email away. But they got to make that call, because we don't know if they don't understand. We don't know if they don't call us. Yeah.
Okay. So let's real quick acknowledge our watching Mike and Heather from Hot, New Jersey. What's up, Mike? Hey, Heather. How are you? They're building down in Seabrook. You guys, we did the pre-slab video on them. They were the inspiration. So this is Mike and Heather. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. I appreciate it. Went by their house today, and it's we're past pre-slab framing, roofing, I believe, and I got to send them an update. But cool. So do you want to go through the various stages and the services that you're offering, basically, as far as pre-slab, pre-drywall, final inspection?
Absolutely. There's kind of four. I mean, at the end, after they take the home ownership, you got the builder warranty at the end. Yeah, that's your part of the builder warranty, and your one last time to claim anything against the builder. But yeah, it starts with the pre-slab, and with that, a little bit of a background about me and whatnot. To growing up in the business, since I was 8, I built houses with my dad. I ran the construction company back in Carolina. And that's what I did for 20-some years. We did a lot of more custom houses, post and beam style, more of a niche. But the biggest thing that I learned from there was just really providing a good, dependable product. And probably the most important thing is communication. It's expressing our concerns or, communicating with the client, or in your case, the realtors and stuff like that, and what's going on. And so I think with that knowledge, just kind of helped us to ride to where we are now, passing my knowledge on to my team and whatnot. But so I do feel that it's important, it's a bonus that we have a builder background. So we kind of get the gist of it a little bit more than just taking an online class and trying to do these inspections. But Greg, you're right. It starts with the pre-slab. And so that's basically we'll come in right before they get ready to pour concrete. And we'll just kind of go over everything. Just like the other day, we found, it was really nice because the job foreman actually met me there, and we went through everything. Anything I found, he fixed it right then and immediately. But we found the plumbing off by 4 or 5 feet for the lavatories and the master. And I'm sitting there looking at the plans, making sure I'm reading them right, looking at him like, hey, you reading the same thing I am? And he's like, yeah. And they were supposed to be poured in 2 days. So it's I say little things, because at that point to me, it's little because it's so easily fixable. Before the house gets built, the concrete gets poured, it's easily fixable right then and there. So.
Okay. So tell me about, I was fun because I did a video on the pre-slab and one of the other things. So they have the form boards up where they form the foundation of your home. Okay. Mm-hmm. Which is obviously important. It's the foundation of your home.
Absolutely.
Okay? So there's plumbing under there. There's rebar. There's some chases, a lot of things I saw like that. One of the things we noticed was the rebar wasn't tied in together or whatnot. Can you tell me a little bit more about that? What are we looking at there?
Yeah, so as per plan, so here in Florida, they're a little bit smaller footers. We don't have a frost line or anything like that back like people have up north. But
a what now?
A frost line to where
What is
you got to
that?
dig. So like the freeze line, because it
Okay.
doesn't get cold here.
Oh, okay.
Sometimes you'll have to go 12 inches below freeze line, and
Okay.
we don't have that here. So the footers look a little like small, but they're appropriate for Florida compared to other places.
Okay.
And the rebar in there helps give it the strength. And they'll run number 4 rebar or whatever it may call for on the plan. And then when they make the bends and the turns and they put the joints, it's supposed to overlap a certain length and then it's supposed to be tied. So that's what you're talking about. So it kind of makes it a one system. So whenever you see the ties, it's not tied. Now it's acting independently in the concrete instead of together. And that's what gives it the
It's not as
strength.
strong if it's not as connected and tied in.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So really quick, I'm going to jump into this because we're there right now. I might as well, because I got a lot of questions. One of the big pet peeves I have, because I have it in my home and we're talking about Florida now, is that there is a code of how thick that foundation pour needs to be.
Yes.
Your foundation, right? My problem is why is it so acceptable around here to allow cracks in this concrete work?
Cracks?
Well, you always see these hairline cracks in these foundations and garages and all that. And we're like, the rule of thumb with the builders for warranty to do anything is if it's not a
quarter inch.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But why do we, if we poured more concrete, we're less likely to have cracks, or is this just Florida as the settling here with the dirt and the sand? I mean, could you give me a little bit of that without getting yourself into trouble or whatnot?
Yeah, I mean, it's so I would probably say it's more so it's a 3.5 inch thick slab. What's in like the body of the house, and then the footers on the edge are going to be like 16 inches deep by 12 inches wide, depending on the size of the house. But with that, I tell people concrete's guaranteed to be 3 things: hard, the color gray, and you're going to see hairline cracks. It's going to crack. The hairlines, it's just kind of the part of the drying out process. You kind of get these hairline cracks. But what I don't see here, what the builders, like what we used to use, like we put fiber mesh in it. So you kind of see all those little hairs sometimes on the top of the concrete. Or they don't use like a rebar mat or like a rebar wire. Yeah. And so that helps make everything one system together instead of just independent concrete poured in the middle.
Right. Because all they do is they create the line system that breaks up the hairline cracks rather than the mesh system, which keeps everything together, which minimizes the length of the cracks.
Yes. And I think if they did that and did that extra step, it may be cost reasons. I don't know why they don't do it. Yeah. But, because sometimes when we have tile finished in the house, and you'll see those hairline cracks along the grout joints, that's what it's from. Yeah. Once again, the concrete's just shifting a little bit, moving, natural expansion and contraction. Even with our seasons here, we do get a little colder, and, like anything, it's going to naturally expand and contract just a little bit, and even concrete.
Okay, so let's just say, because it says if it's also not level together anymore, that's an issue, right?
Yeah, I think their deal is a 1/4 inch in general. And then if it's 1/4 inch and shifted, then that's even a bigger issue. I would be more worried about the main part of the house if I saw that than the garage, because basically the garage is down on a separate pour than the foundation of the house. But still, it would be an issue.
Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm wondering if there's any way with certain builders that you can request to pay more to have some sort of mesh system done on the concrete pour.
It's very possible. Just like
depending on the builder, obviously, there's so many different levels and grades of builders. Okay. So what else should we talk about on the pre-slab inspection? Tell me about the plumbing. That's all being set underneath there with the form boards, and then the concrete goes over the plumbing. So that stuff needs to be right from the beginning. The other day when we were doing it, I noticed that some of the plumbing went upwards with the water softener systems. Is that usually the case?
Yes. So what I'm seeing now with some of the builders, naturally, if you have, the drain lines are being in the slab, and they're generally PVC nowadays, or, we don't have the cast iron anymore, but the PVC for the drain lines, that's what you're seeing more into in the slab now. And that's buried in the dirt and prepped, and then everything's compacted. Mm-hmm. And most builders do a compaction test, and they, basically the compaction test is measuring the density of the soil with the moisture content and all that stuff. And yeah, I saw a guy the other day, he's in there with his little tester from Universal, and it's like, what numbers are you looking for? It's like anything 95 and above, and he's getting like 98, 99 and stuff like that. Pretty neat. And what I'm seeing now, a lot of builders, even though today with the Pulte build, we saw the PEX lines coming up through the slab, which was the water supply lines, most builders are starting to run them through the walls and not in the slab. Or they're coming from the top down from the attic. I don't like the attic deal, but through the walls and stuff is fine.
Yeah, because if you have a pipe burst or leak, then it's going to affect your whole wall and roofing or your ceiling.
Yeah.
Got it. Yeah. Again, it's just making it an easier job for them to minimize.
If something happens, they can get to it instead of busting up concrete. Drywall is cheaper to repair than busting up floor and concrete.
Now, on a pre-slab, the county has to approve them at that stage to go to the next stage, or no? Is there
absolutely? Yeah.
What is the county looking for?
So basically, the county's going to see the plumbing exposed. So they'll see if it's got the proper pitch for the drain and whatnot, if it's sleeved, and then all the joints are put together, is supported properly, and things like that. Because like when we do the sewer scope on the initial build, you don't want to see bellies where it can hold water. So if it's coming in, and kind of like I tell like my guys with the ductwork in the attic, you don't want to see waves. You just want to see it nice and straight, and then kind of coming straight down to the supply line. Same thing in general with the plumbing lines, and that's what they're looking for. Is it properly holding? It has pressure test. You'll see the stacks up real high, and they'll fill everything full of water. So then that way, the inspectors will go by and rattle it and see if it's holding water and stuff like that too.
Okay.
So it's a pretty simple process.
Okay. I saw that you guys were taking measurements, and are you checking the level of the concrete? See, is there any way to check if it's level?
Yes. So kind of what we do with the pre-slab, we come out with a line level, and then we go around all the perimeter, and we start from, say, ground zero, and then we start going every so often around the form boards around the perimeter and see how far they're off.
Okay.
And most builders' tolerances, I think it's 3/4 of an inch or more, then they need to adjust. And then that way, if it's, we normally see anywhere from an 1/8 to maybe a 1/2 inch at the worst. There's been a couple times I found an inch and a half off.
Okay.
But then like you said before, it's documentation for the future. So with that information in the report, if they ever do have a settling or a foundation issue, they know where they started from ground zero. From day one, this is what it was. Well, now it's more. So there is some shifting or moving or something like that.
Yeah. So if you do have a crack that is at 1/4 inch and you need to go to warranty before that 10-year structural warranty is up, you have a report in your hand that has those measurements that shows how much it has shifted. And that documentation is going to help you very much, just like any documentation from a third party is going to give me as your real estate professional, to be able to advocate on your behalf if I am able to show a professional report from a third party. Mm-hmm. So that is vital. And also you have the historical data on the home should you have massive issues in the future. And guess what, people? It happens. It's happened. I'm looking at resales that are 5 to 10 years just underneath that mark. Not to mention stucco, but finding out things that happened because of retaining walls that weren't supporting enough. There's just so many things that happen down the road, and it becomes a massive issue where they have to bring engineering in. And now we're talking tens of thousands of dollars to remediate at that point. And you're fighting these builders and insurance and lawyers. They get involved. I've seen it with my own eyes, and they battle it out to save a penny from having to pay it out.
Stressful.
Very stressful.
Yeah.
Okay. So did we cover everything on the pre-slab? Am I missing anything that people should know?
Yeah, it just like you said, you asked about our measurement tool, and that helps us check the depth of the slab and make sure they're at the minimum 3.5 and whatnot. And then we can note high areas or something like that. Like, hey, you're only like 2.5 or 3 inches over here. You need to pull the poly back and dig some dirt out, and things like that. So
okay. Yeah. Not a popular inspection. It should be. It's your foundation that everything is being built upon. So definitely another peace of mind. So now you have your construction manager, your real estate professional, your inspector, county inspector. Guys, this is called accountability. It's called layered accountability. Your success in life is based on the accountability. It's not fun. Nobody wants to do it. It needs to be done. So again, when people ask me, should I do it? That's up to you. But tonight, I'm telling you, layered accountability. Do you want to win or do you want to take a chance? All right. Yeah. Okay. So after pre-slab, they pour the concrete, they frame the home out. You get the boarding, the wood planks are nailed to the frame. Then we have the roofing, I believe, and then they start doing ductwork and electrical, all the wiring through the walls, all the plumbing through the walls, continued plumbing from the foundation up through the walls. You've got the wiring. What else do we got going on during this stage?
So all the mechanicals, the electrical, plumbing, HVAC, and then obviously the
ductwork.
Yeah.
All your ductwork. Okay. Now, while
you're
this
at the dry-in phase.
Go ahead.
You're at the dry-in phase.
Okay. So while this is all going on now we should be calling well before that gets done. We should be calling back BJ and going, hey, I'm ready for my pre-drywall inspection. Now, I've always said this is the most important. Maybe I should be telling people that the pre-slab is the most important, but they're all important. They're all at different stages of the build, right? But the pre-drywall, to me, I love that. I always try to video them for people because you're always going to want to know what's behind your walls for later on down the road. There's
it's the bones, right? Everybody asks, how's the bones? Well, that's when you can see them.
Okay. So what are you guys looking for?
Once again, I say it's just kind of coming back for another, maybe a higher end QC check because everybody's so busy. But once again, I think people also got to remember that we're not code inspectors, but we are very familiar with the code because we have to document what we see and sometimes reference that. So it could be, kind of working from the top down. We're looking at the shingles and, hey, are they starting to lay flat and are they laid out right? Are they enough offset, with each shingle and whatnot? Are they starting to bond? And then you start looking at the structure, which is the trusses and whatnot. You're looking at the gusset plates, from the engineering. Are you seeing cracked truss cords and broken truss cords or damaged sheathing that, hey, we really should have more support there. You don't have to rip it out, but we need to put a support there, stuff like that. And then you're going to the HVAC system and seeing the ductwork and seeing how that's laid out. Like today, I think we had a couple that, it's not a code issue, but it's kind of a standard of practice with the HVAC guys. When they have a supply vent coming into the room, you don't want that within at least 3 feet away from the return vent, because as you're blowing air in, it's just sucking air out. So if they're side by side, what good is it really doing? So little things like that, and making sure the ductwork's not wavy, it's sealed, everything looks intact. And then you kind of start breaking down to the framing, top of the wall down, making sure you got fire foam, or the fire stop where any penetrations are going through the top plate, your anchors for your trusses that hold for the wind upload and the wind load. Now they don't use clips; they use it's basically a 6-inch screw from Simpson Strong Tie. And sometimes those are really hard to see, and they miss one every now and then. Yeah. And then obviously the plumbing running through the wall, and to me, the plumbing and electrical through the wall is probably the most important, because at that time and point, a $1 piece of equipment can fix thousands of dollars of repair just by being installed at that point. If that water line or that electrical line is too close to the edge of that stud, it can be hit by a nail, screw, whatever. And then you have a problem later on in your move out,
Yeah. And guys, there's so much they're looking at in this stage. It's crazy. One of the big things that's my pet peeve, because they have a variance of allowance on this and it drives me nuts, is these bowed walls, man.
Yep.
It's annoying because when they put the sheetrock over a bowed wall, and what a bowed wall is basically your 2x4s or 2x6s, which I'm also going to ask you about really quick, put you on the spot on that.
Yeah.
But when they're not lined up properly, folks, when they're framing, your walls bowed basically if they're not lined up properly. And then at the end, when they don't fix it, they put the sheetrock up and then they call it mudding it to try to level it out so it's not as obvious to hide it. And I'll tell you what, I mean, they can only do so much, you know what I mean?
Right.
And some of these allowances are annoying to me. Like I have it in my house and I'm like, my wife's putting shiplap over it and everything just to hide that awful wall because it's bowed and it's because it's too. All right. So really quick. And you guys are putting a level along the wall to make sure it's not bowed, right? I mean, that's a big thing. We always discuss that. I'm like, any bows, because it drives me nuts, especially on the most focal points of the house, like ours is at the entrance, living room, certain places.
Exactly. You kind of pick your battles. If it's in a closet, I'm not so much worried about it as when you're walking into your entry every day, or on your TV wall or on your cabinet wall type of deal.
Yeah. Okay. So really quick, some builders advertise very proudly that they use 2x6 instead of 2x4s.
Yes. It's obviously better. So obviously, 2x4, you're 3.5 inch, wall depth, and then 2x6, you're 5.5 inch. I think you find less bowed walls with the 2x6s, but you have the option to do more insulation, maybe to an R19 instead of the, R11, R13 that we minimum require.
More space.
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. So really, that's a big deal. 2x6 building. It's a better quality build.
Absolutely. I think it's definitely more of an expense. And to me, it shows that builder is kind of going the extra mile to do that, because some of them are standard with that.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you'll see 2x6 on interior walls, no matter what, because of the plumbing size and the vent stacks, because they got to fit it in that wall.
Okay. All right. So we have some people tuning in, guys. If you have any questions, that's one of the things where we're always asking with the builders. I know I've always said in the past, the best way to pick your builder is location. Where's the lot? What's the location of it? And make sure you pick a couple of floor plans you like and determine the builder based on that location and lot, which is really important. But at the same time, if you're nitpicky, you should be asking, is the builder build with 2x4, 2x6s? Because it does make a difference. All right. Really quick, another thing that I noticed also during this stage is you guys are checking for, it's wrapped at this point. The wraps.
Oh, on the exterior?
Yeah.
Yes. So there's different ways to do that. Yeah.
Okay, so it wasn't you guys. My buyer picked an inspection company, and they went their own guy, and I got a report, and the wrap had a lot. What are we looking on the wrap? Because this wrap was not good. And explain to people what a wrap is, and immediately I start thinking water intrusion. So go ahead and piece us in on that one.
So there's multiple ways to do it. So today on yours, it had zip system. So that's where the sheathing has already got the coating on it. So that is your weather resistant barrier already. And then they tape the seams and tape around all the joints. And then we saw some liquid flashing and whatnot, around the penetrations that come through that. And then you have the regular house wrap. I think DuPont came out with it first back in the day. I know when I first started seeing it in the late 90s, I hated it. But but basically the same thing. It allows your house to breathe, but it resists the moisture coming in. Because I tell people, you're never going to get an airtight house, but anytime you see mainly a penetration into that system, you need to tape and seal it, because it's going to naturally breathe on its own with that type of system. And then, you'll see sometimes even during the installation, DuPont or Tyvek is a little bit thicker. It's the white material. Then you got green sand. It's like the green, and then you got house guard or something like that. So sometimes they stretch and try to pull it, and they'll kind of separate some of it. So just like that there, it needs to be taped and sealed again. Kind of fix that surface, that finish, that weather resistant barrier.
Okay, so you have your 2x4 or 2x6 frame, and then on the exterior of the house, you've got that zip system board sometimes, or you have wood and then this wrap material that have different brands, the DuPont, whatnot. Okay.
Yeah.
And so that wrap is making sure that wood is not exposed to water intrusions and stuff like that, right?
Yep.
So those holes and those improper wraps that are not taped properly, literally taped, they could potentially get water in the long term and create mold issues or
rot over long-term time. Yeah. Because on most of that paper you could take and you could blow out, but you can't blow through it.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So really important, guys, when you're looking at these houses and you're like, oh, what is that? It's a very important barrier that's protecting your home. So that's another big thing that these guys are doing is they're going around making sure that these wraps are properly installed, because I'm not going to say names or what. Every build is different. It doesn't matter what builder. Everybody has a person installing. One looked like a really bad Christmas present wrap that was last minute.
They can get that way. And
it's 100 degrees out here. God bless these guys, but dude, this was not a good looking wrap at all. The county, and the good thing about that is when it's that bad, the county won't pass it.
Yeah. I mean that weather resistant barrier is required. So no matter what. And we've even gone as far as, I've actually met with the zip system people to actually come and, walk me through a house that's already been done and say, hey, what are you guys looking for?
You did that at one of my clients. You had the zip people by. Okay, another thing he's looking for is exposed nail heads as well as on the roof. Because again, guys, if these exposure of these nails are not covered, water can get through them depending on the hole size that nail's in, right? Am I right?
Absolutely. Yes, especially with like the zip system. If it misses the 2x4, 2x6 framing member and it comes in, so water can get around that nail head and find its way in. Now, it takes time, but there's a reason why they say pull it out and seal it.
Yeah. So just to give you guys an idea, I have a mountain house in Blue Ridge, Georgia. It's 2004 and 5 during the last crazy real estate run before the market crash and people were building homes and actually had no business building homes. I had $60,000 of remediation. We started opening up the walls and we couldn't believe what we saw. And this happened over from 2005 to now. That's 15, 20 years of mildew, mold, wood rot. And one of the main columns of the house had to be completely removed. Like one of the structural columns of the house, basically the guy said, my contractor said, if you hadn't gotten to this, your house would have fallen down on one side. That's how bad it was. Yeah,
that's pretty bad.
I showed it to PJ because I know he's a mold mildew specialist, and I'll tell you why we didn't see it. And this is another question I had for you because there's a lot of pros and cons to this. Foam insulation. We had foam insulation on this mountain house, right? And I have foam insulation in this house. I have an energy efficient house, and it really does make a difference. I have foam insulation in my attic, and people love that because they get the energy rating star, and it does make sure that your ductwork is not sweating as much in the summertime because your attic is not as hot as an attic that has regular insulation for the most part, I believe. But what we had, BJ, in this situation is that there was foam insulation in the walls. So it took forever till it finally showed on the exteriors, the mold in the black. It took forever, major damage to be able to see it behind the foam. It hit it almost. And PJ was talking about like the look on the exterior of the house. I had stone and there was this efflorescence. Yeah. It was like a weird color. I'm like, what the hell is that? Is that a mold? Is it a white? What is this crystally looking? And that was basically the moisture trying to get out of the foam insulation, the heavy foam insulation. So that's the con of it for me. The pro is obviously the efficiency. What's your thoughts on the whole foam insulation thing?
In
Because
the
everybody says,
walls,
I got contractors, houses need to breathe. So there you go.
they do. They do. You can. So I'll go back to my building days doing post and beam, because we had structural foam panels that we used, and that was probably one of the tightest houses that we've ever built.
Yeah.
But yes, your house has to breathe to a point. Would I do it on the walls? Probably not. In the attic, I would say yes. And not only for moisture because you see it too late, but also termite. Because you're not going to really see the termite damage until it's, they've eaten a lot. Get kind of like your water intrusion and your mold and stuff, in the walls and stuff too. It takes some time to see it. But I think too, the most important part to remember, nowadays, we're still learning about the foam and the efficiency and the goods and the cons and all that stuff. But whenever you have an AC system up there and you have that kind of a house, you have to bring in fresh air. And that's why sometimes you'll see a couple vents out in the soffit that has those fresh air intakes for the system. And I see so many times people will turn that off. And then all of a sudden they start getting this condensation in the house. Or they're getting condensation.
Turn what off? On the AC, you mean allowing the exterior air to come in? What is that? Yeah. What is that mode on the AC for? What is it called? What are they turning off?
It's like a fresh air intake, so it pulls in fresh outside air to help with the AC system and stuff like that, because the house is so tight. Basically.
Do people do that when they go out of town? Is that when they do it, or why do people do that?
No, I've just seen them flick it off because somebody says, "Oh, you shouldn't have that on," and then flick it off. And then if you ever hear about people, there's a couple people that's called us and they keep getting like condensation or water inside their dryer. Well, it's because they got a spray foam house and the HVAC system's trying to do the return and it's pulling air from anywhere it can. And so if the dryer door's open, it's pulling air through the dryer, through the vent from the outside, and you're getting condensation in it. And that's actually where it's coming from. And they actually had the fresh air system turned off, or I think they either turned it off or they told the contractor they don't want to put it in. And he's like, "You're going to have a problem." And then lo and behold, why am I getting condensation in my dryer? And that's why. So I think they have a lot of good pros. It's just, you got to make sure that you follow all the steps to make sure it works properly and lasts the way it should.
Yeah. And these homes builders are using them. They have a third party that comes in. They do blower tests. They have the energy efficiency rating. They take it pretty seriously. So it has to be done right.
And with that, you can, the beauty of it is you can, even if you went R38 in your insulation in your attic, our minimum here is R30. It could change the load calc that they got to do for the HVAC system. If you needed a 3-ton with R30, you may only need a 2.5 ton if you go R38. So which improves the efficiency of the house, So you can also get it.
For those people that don't know the numbers, R38, R40, can you tell them exactly what you're talking about?
Insulation value.
Okay.
Yep, that's in your attic.
Okay.
So the white fluffy.
That insulation is is it still a fiberglass product? That blanket?
No, they don't use that. I mean, it's rare. They don't really use fiberglass anymore. So
they don't. But it looks like a spongy looking material.
Yeah.
And sometimes it comes in rolls, and then old school, some of these builders still blow it into the attic, just randomly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the higher the number, the thicker the insulation is?
Yep, which is the higher the R value.
Okay. And the higher the R value, the better, because you'll hear some builders also going advertising that they use a higher R level insulation in their attics and whatnot.
Yep. So like if you had the 2x6 walls, you could do R19 walls and R38 ceiling, which is going to give you a way better energy efficiency and possibly downsize your HVAC system, which in turn uses less energy and things like that.
Yeah, guys. I mean, I'm in 3340, almost 3,400 square feet, and I have one AC running a 5-bedroom house at 3,400 square feet, and we never have an issue. Our AC bills really. And
I'd probably guess that if you're all spray foam, you're probably 3.5 ton.
Yeah.
Instead of a 5-ton unit.
So. Okay. All right, I learned something else, and I don't have a lot of time left with you, so I want to be cognizant of that. Nobody's giving questions, so I'm going to do all my questions and geek out as much as I want. Um, I just want to remind everybody, when you're doing these inspections, remember with these builders, they're building homes. These are track homes. These aren't custom homes. They're popping out homes between 7 and 12 months, y'all. 7 and 12 months. And you're thinking about whether or not you want an inspection. 7 to 12 months. I've seen houses go up in 7 months like that. Okay. I just want to make sure people understand that's how quickly they're building. No, people don't get it.
And it's a process to get approved with the builder. As you know, we could do 5 Pulte, 5 Lennar day after day after day, and we have to submit insurance every time for every property. So there's a little bit of a process for that. And there is higher insurance regulations and stuff that the builder requires. Yes.
So you always want to make sure you get your inspector ahead of time. You can book online on their webpage. What's your website again?
InsideandOutPropertyInspectors.com.
InsideandOutPropertyInspectors.com. I'm going to put it on the show notes and on the description and on the comments. Just make sure when you book online that you do it well in advance, and then they'll contact you. When you sign up for your inspection with them, they'll ask you who the realtor is, who your sales rep is, and they will reach out to them and provide their insurance. Say, hey guys, and the construction manager, if you have that email, which you should know who your construction manager is. And if you don't, that's a problem. Okay. You should know who your construction manager, and he's building your house. Okay. And your realtor should know kind of who he is too. I try to make buddy with them as much as I can, because they're the ones.
Absolutely.
The best way to get your house built, by the way, is not yelling at people, at your construction manager. They get yelled at all the time. Ask nicely. If you treat them like kindly, that's an anomaly. They will want to help you. The good ones will want to. So you should know your construction manager, and then they're going to send an email out to the construction manager and the sales rep for the builder and your realtor and say, hey, when is a good time for us to come in and do this inspection? Because they want to get in there, especially pre-slab. They want to get in there before they pour the concrete. And this is all booked out already by the construction manager. So don't piss off the construction manager and do it the day before concrete poured. Because if there's something wrong, then he's screwed, because he's got to fix everything before they pour the concrete and delay everything. Everything's layered in order. So they don't like that. Same with drywall. They're doing pre-drywall inspection. That's before they put the insulation over all the piping and cover everything up, and then put drywall. So that these guys can see behind the walls. So you want to try to book it in advance. And I need to do better. As soon as I get my new EA on, I'm going to do better reminding my people to make sure that you get that information into your inspector ahead of time, because you can always do it ahead of time. And we'll talk about maybe what you guys offer as package deals, if you do. I don't know if you do, but just saying. Insulation. One of the things I learned the other day is whenever people put shower niches, you know how people like to do that cutout shower opening, shower niche. I've noticed a lot of my builders telling me it's not always great to do it on an exterior wall, because then if it's not properly insulated, there's not a lot of, barrier between the exterior and that niche. I don't know if you've heard that before, but we've had to ask several times that they also cut out insulation and put it in that niche as well, to add insulation to create more of a moisture barrier from your shower to the exterior of the home.
Obviously it could get damaged more easy. A nail could go through it or something like that. Also installing the siding, or the homeowner drilling something out there, not thinking about it, and it goes to their niche.
Another big thing I'm seeing is, dude, it's weird as hell, man, but I'm seeing AC pads on the side of the house that are not straight. They're square foundational concrete pads, and they're not straight. They're crooked on $1 million house. It's lined up next to your house. You can see it's not straight. Do you get that a lot?
We do, and a lot of them are off center and stuff like that, and are off level.
I might be in a pain in the butt asking them to straighten them and level them.
At this stage, I say no, because it's like I tell people, like it's my brand new shiny car. Let me put the dent in it. I know you can't make it perfect, but let's try.
Yeah, I always go, come on, guys. I mean, it just make it a little straight. I mean, this is like the naked eye. Anybody can see this is completely off. And I mean, how hard is it, do you think, to straighten a AC pad, a concrete AC pad? Is it a lot?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right. So that's one thing. I'm getting to the big question I really want to talk about. One of the other things I get all the time, this is on the final inspection, okay? Now we're getting past the pre-drywall inspection. They're closing up the walls. They're putting the insulation over the pipes and everything after everything's been remediated or fixed. They're fixing the bowed walls. They're fixing the trusses, any wood that's not proper and whole. They're making sure there's no nails sticking out. They're not making sure no nails are penetrating wires, electrical. They're making sure your ductwork's not. Everything's all good. Now they're going to put insulation in, and they're going to put the drywall up, and they're going to close up the walls. Okay. All right. And then they're going to start, now they're going to put the plaster over the drywall, start painting over it. This is a whole next section where we're getting into finishes, and I don't have enough time to go through that totally. But the finishes, one of the big things that I see a lot is that I love hardy board, and we have what they call cementous siding on the exterior. We used to do a lot of stucco here in St. Johns County, but they're finding that stucco, I'm a son of an architect, I believe stucco is meant for concrete. I may be wrong, BJ may tell you differently, or anybody else, but I believe it was started in Miami on concrete structures back in the day, and that when we started putting them on wood frame houses with different weather conditions up here in Northeast Florida, they weren't properly installed, and people were seeing issues with stucco between 9 and 10 years. So whenever I show a stucco house, man, I'm all over it. And they don't properly paint it with a sealant to make sure that there's no water penetration. Go ahead.
Yes. So I get called out for a lot of stucco evaluations, just doing stucco by itself. Sometimes it's installation error, but the majority of the time it's lack of maintenance. People think that stucco is bulletproof. I don't have to touch it. I don't have to do anything. I see the front of the house. I see the rear of the house. I don't see the sides because I never walk on the side of my house hardly. So, on new construction, stucco, and I think is even in your builder warranty, supposed to be painted within the first 3 to 5 years. And it needs to be painted within the first 3 to 5 years. And then
with a particular paint.
Yes. So I always throw out Loxon XP from Sherwin-Williams. There's a bunch of other products out there that do the same thing, but the main thing is it's an elastomeric paint designed for stucco. Just like the concrete, it's going to expand and contract. You're going to get those hairline cracks, but what that paint does, it bridges those cracks to keep them sealed when things expand and contract. Hairline cracks are not a huge deal to a point, but when you do see them, you should seal them. And I think what most people get confused about, that paint is cosmetic for stucco, and it's not. It's part of the stucco system, and it helps protect the stucco. And
it's actually like an elastic balloon that's encasing the stucco so that water doesn't get in and it doesn't continue to crack and expand more. It's more keeping it together. So as soon as you see those hairlines, you need to properly treat it. But then also you need to make sure you spend the money to get the right paint on there. Yeah. You really have to get the correct paint, and that's going to ensure the longevity of your house. But nonetheless, builders know that nobody takes care of their homes after the newness wears out, and warranties 10 years, and they're like, you know what, we're fed up with these 8-9 year warranty calls, which we have to remediate something that you should have taken care of. In some cases, the installs weren't done right. I've seen some communities where the installer did not do it thick enough and it wasn't done right.
And it's normally a flashing detail.
Right. Okay. So they went to cementous siding. Can you tell people? I love it, by the way. I think it's phenomenal. I have it. I like it. Tell me a little bit about that.
I love it too. Hardy is a brand, so we got to say cementous now because everybody makes it. We were actually one of the first builders in North Carolina to start using it. Then when it came back out in the 90s, and we got it pre-painted. So when we put it up, we caulked it and sealed it, and we kept going. The house is already painted. I think it's a great product. Once again, when I see issues with it, it's installation error. Most likely, it's not, hey, the product failed. Every now and then you'll see some manufacturer defects, but it's very rare. It's normally installation error.
Okay, so installation errors. Can you give me just a few examples?
So a lot of people, let's talk about the flashing that they use for that, or at the butt joints before, where you have the two pieces of siding coming together. They used to not do a metal flashing in behind it. They used to caulk the joints. Okay. So now what they did, you still have the option to caulk it, but now they use like a 3x5 piece of metal behind that. So you don't have to caulk it because it creates a maintenance issue because that caulking will always crack.
Yeah.
Sometimes even on the new builds, we will find scattered areas where they forgot to put in that, the flashing in behind the butt joints. Or probably one of my favorites is everybody cosmetically, it doesn't look good, where you got that 1/4 inch gap above like a horizontal flashing over a door or over a water spigot block. They want that gap filled. That gap is there for drainage. So if water gets behind it, it comes out there and drains out. You don't ever want to caulk those.
Yeah. Okay. Big question I get constantly. The siding on the side of the house, they're not butting up to each other. They have those gaps you just talked about.
Mhm.
Everybody wants them caulked, or they want them to put the siding up against each other. The builder says to me, we're not supposed to put them, the house expands and contracts. We're supposed to leave a gap in certain areas. Is that accurate?
It is. They're supposed to moderately touch. So,
Okay.
They'll have some touch. Now, if they're gapped like a 1/4 inch, I'll call them out all day long because it looks awful.
Right.
But on some of the houses, when you see the siding guy put it on and then they put the next piece on and it's bowed in the center and they have to push it tight to get it to go in, I guarantee you 2 months later at that butt joint, you're going to see it start bowing out like that.
Okay.
And that's when it's been installed too tight.
Okay.
Just like everything else, that stuff expands and contracts minutely, but it's just enough so they want it to moderately touch.
Okay. Yeah.
And the caulking will create a maintenance nightmare for the homeowner because they'll be doing it yearly and then they'll have to repaint it and it's just awful.
Yeah. You get all these people want to caulk it and they think there's something wrong. Like, do you think they really forgot in 32 places not to put the hardy board next to each other? Okay, really quick, running through. We did the gap siding board. One of the other things that bothers me is some builders do it and some people don't. The exterior gas piping, a lot of us are using or gas communities now here in Northeast Florida. So you have this, I want to say galvanized metal or whatnot.
Galvanized, gas pipe.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be, it's steel. It's supposed to be painted.
Yes, it's supposed to have a coating on it.
Right. Some of the builders don't, and they say that it's steel. It's a certain kind of steel, and it doesn't need to be painted.
Well, it's not galvanized.
Rust. Is that nonsense? Yes. Okay. Yeah. Why is it so hard to just have it painted?
I don't know if it becomes a power trip at that point. I mean, they could say that, hey, this is designed to be in the exterior. Yeah, it's designed to be there, but it's designed to be there with a coating on it too.
Yeah. Also, some of these hybrid water heaters, some of them are not even installed exterior. Some builders won't even install them. Make sure, like Ashley Homes, make sure all their gas tankless water heaters are in the interior of the home. We talked about that today.
Yep.
And these are exposed to the elements in the exterior. And I have seen resales where the metal piping is very rusted on the exterior and it needs to be replaced. And people overlook that, go, oh, we don't want to do that in inspections when on a resale. I'm like, well, you need to. It's a gas line and the integrity of it is rusting. So you either need to replace it or you should have had it painted to begin with. And I'll see a lot of them that are not.
Yeah,
so we should
it's a very common, and I think it's good to know to call out when it's just surface rust. Hey, get in there and prep and prime and clean it again and paint it. Then hey, it's actually starting to corrode and break down.
Okay. All right. Another annoying thing coming down here to the nitty gritty. Should the stove be connected to the countertop?
Yes. You talking about a drop-in cooktop?
Correct.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you want to hear the stories?
Sure.
Builder says these clips are really annoying. They're very hard to take off. They almost could damage your countertop being connected. We just decided if there's something wrong with your stove, you're going to wish you didn't connect them. So we don't install them.
Well, there are clips that are made to go on and they're made to come off.
So
with a screwdriver or a nut driver.
It's just too much work.
Yeah. Okay. I would just say that's just lazy.
That's just lazy. Okay. Constantly stoves are moving around.
Yeah.
Is that an everyday occurrence for you?
It's almost 50-50. Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay. Do you know that, to me, this is the hard part, being the son of a builder. My dad's not around anymore. He used to build in block in the Caribbean and in Florida, and he calls these paper mache houses, like he doesn't believe in the construction these days. But he was an old school dude, right? So everything was stone and block. To me, it's like, are we becoming now where we've accepted certain things as standard? Like you're saying 50-50. That's kind of unacceptable, to the point where I wasn't sure if it was actually an accurate statement that it is better not to have them on. You know what I mean?
Well, I think it goes back to when you first started the show. It's accountability. And it becomes the new standard when nobody's calling anybody out on it.
Yeah.
So then it's like, oh, well, it's like some issues that we find. I mean, we found with like the tankless water heaters. We found out they're supposed to be 4 foot from an operable window, and everybody's installing them 3. And the builder told me, well, I've installed every other house this way and it passed inspection. It's like, okay, but here's the manual stating has to be 4 feet from the window or door that opens to the house. Yeah, but I've already installed it that way. I think it's what they're taught and what they've gotten used to, that's right, even though something else says it's wrong. And it's hard to change. Now, they eventually changed and move all the water heaters, but it took us a year to start getting that to the builders, through the new construction homes.
Over and over again, and reiterating. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's not about building the home quality. It's about just getting the pass from the inspector. That's all it's about.
Yeah, because I think most of these trades, they're out there. Somebody showed them this way, and they think that's the way to do it, even though it could be the wrong way. Yeah. Okay. So sometimes it's a way that it's right. It's just not the better right. Yeah. Okay. But it's still right. Meets the minimum code, and that's what people need to remember. These houses are built to minimum code. That's all they have to do.
Minimum code, folks. You hear that? Minimum code. Okay. Mm-hmm. All right. That means inspectors not checking if the stove is connected to your countertop.
Right. Yeah.
But I'm looking at it now. Every damn time I walk into a house, I'm like,
absolutely,
the stove's really shifting around here. That's crazy. All right.
Windows. Like sometimes you get a random countertop.
Say that again?
Yeah, I don't want it to shift around and scratch my countertop on the top, so secure it.
True. Windows where there's a shortage of a certain size window because it's not your common window, and they try to install it after drywall. Bad?
No, because I look at it as a remodel. It can be done. It just got to be done the right way. As long as all the other proper steps are taken. When they're cutting a hole in the exterior, they're repairing the house wrap, they're flashing the window, they're taping the window, they're sealing the window, and all that stuff. As long as you're taking those precautions, then I'd say it's fine.
Okay. I'm clearly a pain in the you-know-what, because I ask for my clients' houses that they don't put the window in until they don't do the drywall until they get that window.
Yeah. I mean, when we had the shortage, I get it, but I don't think we have that shortage anymore. So, yeah.
Okay, one other big question. I promise I'll let you go in the next couple minutes. Sorry, I've taken too long.
No worries.
Okay, when workers are working in a house, they leave the windows open, and my people get pissed, especially people that are in town watching their build, because when it rains, the windows are open, water gets in. Mm-hmm. Now, are they letting the house breathe? Are they just trying to stay cool while they're working in there? Does that little bit of rainwater flying through the window when it's open? I mean, there's no window when you're framing it, so the water is getting through there anyway. Should my buyers be concerned?
Is this closer to finish or still like during?
No, we're talking windows are in, the house is just framed out, drywall and insulation may not be totally in yet.
No, I mean, all that stuff gets wet anyways. And, one, we have a slab. So, and even if we have a second story, most of the builders use, what is that product? Advantech, I think, the subfloor.
Yeah.
And that's designed to be out submerged in water for a year.
Okay.
So it's going to get wet. It's going to dry out and stuff like that. So it's just part of the building process.
All right. So all my people out there, when I send you video of your build and you're freaking out because the windows are open, it's okay. The wood in the interior of the house can get a little wet. It's going to be all right.
It will naturally dry.
It will naturally dry. You've heard it here from the inspector himself. By the way, we are not liable for anything on this. This is purely opinionated, and there'll be a liability warranty waiver on the video underneath it to completely eliminate us. Because if you come back to us because of some silly story that you heard here on YouTube, that's your fault, because we're not responsible. It's purely opinion. We have no idea what we're talking about. But if you're yelling at me because the windows are open on your construction site or your construction manager, it's okay. Now, of course, if there's carpeting in and all that,
right. That's different.
Different story, guys. So keep that in mind. Really quick, another big thing is construction wood's left out on the site, mostly trusses, black mold on it. I've had this conversation with PJ. I don't know why he's a mold guy in your company. He's like a fanatic about it. I've gotten in a conversation. I'm like, dude, you are geeking out about this. And I got into it with him, and I'm just bad. But okay, should they be worried? Because I had a conversation about it. He's like, dude, there's molds in Florida in your bushes right outside your window of your house. And when you open the windows, it blows through your house all day long.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yes. So it's kind of that storage stuff. I kind of say sometimes it looks like little leopard prints. It's light green. It could be black. Mold comes in multiple colors, not just black. And, we had that scare black mold.
Yeah.
There really is no such a thing. But generally what happens is when the materials are being stored, they got wet and they're sitting on top of one another and they can't dry out. So yes, you'll get those little spots of mold on it. On occasion, if we see it one or two spots, we won't say anything. If we start seeing it consistently somewhere, then we say, hey, just spray and treat it. That's all you need to do. You just want to kill the spores. But basically, it's not going to spread after the house is built unless moisture gets back to that area. Then it can be more, I guess, vulnerable to start spreading if moisture got to it. But if it doesn't have moisture, it's just ugly. That's all.
Okay. So people, if you're listening now and people are listening to this recording, if you have black mold or something on your wood or your trusses or whatever, and you bring it up and they say, hey guys, we sprayed it, it does not mean that the mold is going to turn white and go looking differently. They're just killing the spores. It's gone. It's not just because you can visually see it. If they say it's been treated and sprayed, that's it. We're done. It doesn't mean you have to replace the whole truss. Am I right or am I wrong?
You're correct. I mean, and basically, I think they pay somebody $200-$300 to come in and spray it and just a microbial cleaner on it, and they just spray it and treat it, and then they're done. They're not there to clean it because it doesn't need to be cleaned. It's just there.
Yes. So we have some people that get on the social media rampage taking pictures, and they show pictures of it, and we're like, that was sprayed. It was remediated. They're not going to replace that whole truss or whatever just because there's a black looking mold on it. As long as you can prove that they did do a spray treatment by a third party, it's remediated. It's fine. Correct?
Yeah, correct.
Okay, cool. Awesome. But always have a third party in to check on that. Don't take our word for it. But for all the people that are freaking out about mold and spores, it's all in the air here in Florida. All in the air. I have podocarpus trees and I have black mold constantly on them, where I had to tell my guy yesterday, you guys need to spray this down more. Same thing on the wood. Same deal. Spray it down. All right, cool.
And most of the people coming from up north, just be prepared because you're going to have sinuses. You're going to have everything going on with you coming from up north down to here.
Yeah.
So.
Great, man. You just killed 60% of my business.
No, still come. Just realize.
I'm just joking. Where were you in North Carolina? Just out of curiosity.
Hendersonville, Asheville area.
Okay, cool.
Yep, Western Carolina.
Cool beans. All right. Do you guys now, these inspections can add up. I mean, they're all like $500-600 a pop. Do you guys do anything, package deals or anything? I don't want to put you in a spot. Do you or do you not?
No, the only discount that we'll give is on the end one at the builder warranty. I think we discount that a little bit more than a standard. And then obviously we love our military, law enforcement, all those guys. So we do have a hero discount. So it's like $40 that we give to people. So that's military, first responders, nurses, teachers, anybody like that.
Okay, so, got it. All right, I just want to double check because you never know. I don't know if it's a benefit in your business or not because I'm not in your business, but I was like, well, it's kind of like not a 2-for-1, but it's kind of like, hey, if you get all 3 or 4 inspections, we'll give you a little break because it's an investment. But again, it's a long-term investment that potentially will save you thousands and thousands of dollars in the future.
I say people are saving money with us just because we have 2 inspectors instead of 1.
Okay, tell me what that means.
We have 2 inspectors on site doing your inspection instead of just 1.
Okay.
And we're still pretty well priced to the other people. So you're kind of getting a 2-for-1 already.
Yeah. So he's kind of right because whenever I go to inspectors or not with these guys, I do notice it's one guy doing a whole house by himself. And these guys really do when you do a verbal with these guys at the end of the inspection, if you intend the end of your inspection, which you should if you can, then they sit there with their partner and they literally share notes with each other when they're pulling up their reports. Mm-hmm. So you have another 2 sets of eyes that are specifically because it is, if you're doing it right, it's a process. And so that's a very valid point that he came up. I never thought about it that way. He's paying for 2 people. And I was just trying to get the proper lawn service done in the house here. And people are talking about the cost of labor these days just to get people to work. It's just absolutely crazy what the hourly wages are. Even I am experiencing it as I'm looking for an executive assistant. I think I told you that I had to go salary because the hourly thing was not working, to get good quality people working. It's not an easy job. So, all right. So I went way over the hour because it took a little while to get started and I didn't realize we had any questions. BJ, what would you like to say? It's open to you, man. Anything you need to say. I really appreciate you giving us your time tonight.
Oh yeah, no problem. I appreciate you inviting me. And I guess another discount, I'm really bad. I don't really like to talk about myself or anything like that or the company, but so kind of what we do with new construction and 11-month warranties is it kind of sets us apart. We've been doing sewer scopes for almost 6-7 years now before anybody started it.
Doing what?
Sewer scopes.
Sewer scopes.
Yeah, okay. So that's where we put the camera down the sewer line and stuff like that. So we automatically include that with new construction 11-month warranty. That's already built into the price. So we don't charge extra for that. So that is a pretty good discount.
Yeah. So one of the things I liked about these guys when I used them, which I noticed, was that they had a lot of digital toys that I didn't know what the hell they were. And I started asking questions, and it's very expensive equipment, computer equipment, some of it, where you're not just relying on the human eye. They're actually got calibrated numbers that they're putting recordings together. And that these equipment is a lot more expensive than your standard Home Depot crap. These are instruments, these are tools, and some of his guys geek out on it. I'm not going to call him out on it, but they come in with these boxes of tools, and I've had incidents with them where they were insisting that there was water, from their cameras, they could tell in the ceiling of one of our builds, and this was back in the COVID days, we had lots of issues back then, but they could tell my most minute leak in ductwork in a house. And the builder was PO'd, man, because you guys were like, sorry, there's something going up on that attic, and they could not find out what was going on. And it was the tiniest of leak in a ductwork that was creating condensation, and you guys had such powerful guns going through the wall to measure. You can see the coloration in your reports. That something was going on, and sure enough, we finally found it. And that builder, not saying any names, had similar situations with that AC company probably previously, and that problem over 10 years turned into a big problem in someone's attic. and they had an elderly person in there that had a respiratory issue, and it became very evident it was based on the air quality of the house from a long-term spores from the water and the heat together in the attic, creating a mold over a long period of time. So you have a larger accumulation of mold spores in your air. Your air quality is not so good. And in this case, it had to be completely, the whole ductwork had to be removed.
Yeah. So I probably just bounced off of that, Greg, is that, we like our toys. Obviously knowledge is great with those toys also. But kind of what I feel that with us is, we have building experience. We are certified thermographers. I'm a level 2, one of the highest in my area that nobody else has. All the guys are CRT, like certified residential thermographers. I sent to those other classes to do that for these cameras. Our cameras, they range from $8,000 to $20,000. They're not, I'm not picking on anybody, but it's not the $500 one. Ours are better. And we used it for other stuff, but we need that clarity. And so when we document something, I feel confident in my tools. Like, hey, I see it, confirmed it with a moisture meter. It's wet or it's not, or it's an anomaly of some sort. But we have a licensed mold assessor on staff. We are a fully licensed pest control company also. I'm actually a certified operator for that. And then, I just think we just bring a lot of experience, evolved and building and whatnot to the table that most people can't. So.
Yeah, I second that. Not to do another horror story, but that sewer scope, someone right day after Christmas, the day before Christmas, somebody messed with somebody's sewer line. The toilet backed up on the bottom floor, all over the bottom floor of their house the day after Christmas, sewage. And there was a clog in the sewer line. They had to rip up their whole entire driveway to unclog the concrete or whatever that was in that line that was down there. And they did not have an inspection. God bless them. It's not their fault. It was over the holidays. They were just trying to get in the house. They skipped everything. And the day after Christmas, the shit blew up. Excuse my French for saying that. Literally blew up. I got the call after Christmas. Felt horrible for them. Got them in a hotel, luckily. Their whole driveway got ripped up to find that clogged sewer line. I guess that's what we're talking about, right? I mean,
and it's, you hear horror stories, and when we first started coming out with it, I just tried to charge $100. I figured, hey, that's a no-brainer, but nobody wanted to pay it, and it's like, now just give it to them with the new construction. But after hearing the stories like, hey, we found Corona bottles, we found dried grout that they've shoved down in there and stuff like that, it's just like we'd rather give that little extra peace of mind to the customer, because we see the value in it, and we just rather go ahead and just go that extra mile and give that peace of mind.
Awesome. All right. The longest Thursday night we ever had. This should have been a 2-parter. I'm going to connect the videos for the actual pre-slab inspection we did. We had these guys on site. They were nice enough to let me bother them and watch them and ask them a few questions. We also have a we had a pre-drywall inspection that we did as well. I'm going to attach those videos. They don't have the greatest hits on these videos. And it's ironic to me, because the crap I put out there, people will watch 1,000 of them to listen to a story about me and my wife and kids and why we moved here. But the most important crap of all is making sure your house is built properly, and that's only got 200 hits. So I keep pushing those videos out there, and if people ask me, should I do an inspection? I just send your videos. I don't need to tell. It's the same story over and over again. Mark, very informative. Thanks. Can you please provide BJ's contact information again, Mark and Roseanne? Absolutely, Mark. I will definitely provide that for you. We'll put it in the description. We'll put it in the commentary, because I know BJ is very busy. He's got children like I do. Dude, I can't thank you enough for joining here tonight.
No worries, my friend.
This is the benefit of the referral business, of working with other professionals, that when we do a lot of business together, the least this man can do is, well, I shouldn't put him on that like that, but the least he could do is say, all right, you know what, Greg, we do enough business, and you want to understand the business, and you want to educate your people. Let's provide value. I'll come out on a Thursday night and spend an hour and 20 minutes with you on a YouTube channel. If it's for the greater good. And you know what? Every time somebody asks me questions about this, dude, I send this video out and go, I'm not going to say it again. Watch the video. So, all right. No, I'm
watch
just
the video.
Yeah, watch the video. And call these guys up. Make sure you have a good professional that's reputable and understands the business and what they're doing, has a good team that's going to efficiently make sure that your home is built correctly. My name is Greg DiTullio. We got BJ Johnson on tonight. We're going to have another show next week. I took off last week because we took the kids to Disney. So we had to do that. But next week, we're going to make it lighter. I think we're going to have somebody on about pickleball here in Northeast Florida. It's the new rage. Unfortunately, I don't have time to play, but we're going to talk to a pickleball pro. So join us here. Of course, if you're thinking about moving to the area, my name is Greg DiTullio. I'd love to be a real estate resource of choice. Got tons of videos here with his crew. Everybody that's in the industry, design, everything, providing value. So if you're thinking about making a move, educate yourself. Make sure you have a good team behind you. And I guarantee you, you're not going to be one of those people leaving nasty reviews for vendors, builders, complaining and all that, because you had the right team and you took the right steps to make sure that your build was a good one and your move was a less stressful one than it had to be. Good night, folks. BJ, I'll talk to you soon, buddy. Have a great night. Talk to you soon.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good night.